So hi and welcome back to another quick video lesson for you today. Very topical. Hands up if you've struggled outside on the golf course this time of year, burnt out, sandy, no grass, and you suddenly find that your strike's gone, okay, or you're not striking it as well as you normally do. I think that's happened to a lot of people, especially on the shorter irons and chip shots and pitches and things, but can be from anything hit from the ground. So if you're one of those people that is struggling this time of year in these conditions, it is solely because your angle of attack into the golf ball is not correct. And you probably find it's not correct all the time, but it's just that these conditions are highlighting it. You might also be the same sort of people who struggle when it's really soggy and wet, because the same sort of problems will show up if you don't have the right angle of attack. And what do I mean by angle of attack? It's a bit of a golfy word, isn't it? So we're talking about the angle at which your golf club head is approaching the golf ball. And when we first start the game, there's a sort of belief that we beginners have that the angle of attack is almost zero. In other words, that the club fits directly under the golf ball here and the ball goes up off the club. But that isn't correct. And most of us know that, but we just be good today to sort of reinforce what we're actually looking for in terms of angle of attack to maximise the chances of you striking the ball, and especially off these horrible sandy bone hard lies. So what's been happening lately? Have you been hitting it fat? Have you been hitting it thin? Are you duffing chips and things? All of these things will happen if your angle of attack isn't right. So I've set up a system here on the simulator. It's Royal Troon, 18th green, if you recognise it. And I've got to go over a bunker. I've got 38 yards to go to the flag. I'm going to play this shot in a couple of ways for you. And the iPad that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there, that's going to show you the angle of attack of my club into the golf ball on the left-hand side and the dynamic loft on the right. And what we mean by that is just how much loft was showing on the club when it actually struck the golf ball. The club I'm using has got 54 degrees of loft on it. It's my sand wedge. Just keep an eye on how much loft of that 54 degrees I'm showing at impact. So first of all, let's play a high flighty shot into this, pitch shot into this target and see what the numbers would be. Okay, so this would be with a lot of loft, throwing it almost all the way to the flag. Okay, up she goes. And we can see there that I've presented 52 degrees of loft all but. So nearly all the loft on the club I was showing to the golf ball, and it was only going downwards by 0.7 of a degree. So if we imagine that club approaching the golf ball, and it's actually pretty much going at the same height as the ground, so it's got no downward pressure on it, it means that if it were to catch the ground before the golf ball, then it's going to catch a bit of dust and grit, and that's a potential duff waiting to happen. What the angle of attack also tells us is where the low spot of the swing is, where on this arc the low spot is. So if I'm only going down by less than 1 degree when I hit the ball, that low spot is almost directly under the ball, perhaps a couple of millimeters after. What we're looking for is an angle of attack, the downwards, that makes the low spot of our swing 3 to 4 inches, in this case, beyond the golf ball. So let's show you something that looks a little bit more meaningful in terms of this scenario here and what's going to really help you outside. So let's just play this one slightly differently. You're not going to notice a whole lot of difference until I explain it to you. Okay, so similar result, but we can see that the angle of attack down there was 6.7 degrees down. And of the 54 degrees of loft on the club, I'm only showing 41.3 of them. So that tells us two things. One is, if the club was still going down 6 degrees when it hit the ball, the low spot hasn't been reached. It's going to be reached after the golf ball. So that increases my chances of hitting the ball before whatever it's sat on. You know, either soggy ground or, in this case, sandy, horrible, tarmacy type ground. Secondly, the loft on the club, 13, 14, whatever it is, degrees less than the loft on the club. That tells me at the point of impact, My shaft was not vertical because that would be all 54 degrees on the club. It was actually leaning forward by 13 degrees to take the loft off the club, 14 degrees. And these are very, very important in terms of you improving your strike instantly in these conditions. So what did I do differently? Let's just do another one. Let's make it a little bit more extreme this time. See if you can spot anything. Oh, nearly went in. Okay, there we go. Look, 8.4 down. Dynamic loft presented now 38 degrees. That's now 16 degrees less than it's on the golf club. But the strike gets tidier, it gets cleaner. There was still plenty enough loft to get over that bunker in this scenario and run the ball out to the green. But I was stacking the odds in favour of a better strike. Let's share with you how we do it. Okay, so at setup, we can leave the ball in the middle. That's fine. We'll do something slightly different in a second. Let's try at setup to simulate what we want to happen at impact. There's no point in me having my hands vertically above the golf ball with a vertical shaft because I don't want that situation at impact with all 54 degrees of loft showing. I want to get into a position at setup which replicates impact. So as a rough guide, put the butt of the club opposite your left trouser crease here, take your grip, show less loft address, and then just ever so slightly favour the weight on your left side of your body. Just 55%, 60%, no more than that, and then leave it there. So when we come to play the shot, we can see the club rises a little bit more steeply away from the golf ball and is going to give you a steeper angle of attack down. Ball first, don't forget, low spot after impact. And putting those things into your mind will instantly improve the quality of your strike. It's a small change, but it'll make a massive difference to your angle of attack and the amount of loft you've presented. Let's try going a bit more extreme this time. So imagine you picked a horrendous lie, and as you look at it, you think there's almost no way I can get the club on the ball here. Sandy divot in a little hollow, horrible lie. Let's increase this angle of attack further. Now to do that, we're going to have to exaggerate things slightly. So now move the ball back about an inch or so backwards of centre in your stance. This in turn will increase that shaft lean if we leave the butt opposite our trouser crease and put a little bit more weight on our left side. Now we're getting very steep into the ball. Of course it's not going to go as high and flighty because we've taken loft off our hitting implement, but sometimes we've just got to find and adapt to the situation and get the job done as best we can. You'll see a lot of that, at the Open this week at Birkdale when it's bone dry. So let's go back in the stance an inch, shaft forward, weight forward, and let's get some angle of attack going here. Okay, so now we're up to 11 degrees on the way down, and we're down to 36, 37 degrees of loft even further. And it does affect the ball because obviously it had enough loft to get over the bunker and it ran out, but it's going to affect the flight of the ball. So you have to think about the shot choice you're having. If I wanted to play anything higher than that, but from that poor lie, I would just use a more lofty club. So I've got a 58 degree, I can do the same. And of course the dynamic loft's going to go up, but I'm still going to maintain my angle of attack down to increase my chances of playing a successful shot. So I'd like you to give that a go. I'm just going to introduce you to one more thing. We've been trying this out. You may have seen it on your social media channels if you're into that sort of thing, but there's a training aid that's just been launched called the Strike Wedge. Now, this is not reinventing the wheel. Back in the day, we used to put a T-peg or a 10p piece behind the ball to make sure we missed it and created some compression on the ball. In other words, increased our angle of attack. But they've brought out this Strike Wedge, a bit of rubbery plastic here. It's quite well done, to be fair. It's in a nice little box. There's a guide with where to put the Strike Wedge to increase your, to give you a bit of more diversity in what you can learn from it, because clearly our angle of attack changes as the shaft gets longer, and therefore this has to be sat further or nearer to the golf ball. So on one of these little accessories, which it can also put on the side of the wedge, it's got a little measuring ruler, and we can put this behind our golf ball. So for this sort of shot, you can position the Strike Wedge about 3 inches or so behind the ball, And now it's a very good visual aid. If I was to play my poor shot again with no angle of attack here, you'll see what's going to happen, quite obviously. I'm actually going to hit the strike wedge on the way down, because as you can see, my angle of attack there was no downward motion at all, and the loft was 49 degrees. However, the visual of having that there really does increase the awareness of your angle of attack. So again, keep the ball in the middle, now play a decent shot into here, and you'll see something different. Okay, so that encouraged me to an 8.8 down, 40 degrees of loft showing straight away. I didn't have to think about that too much. Just by avoiding the actual bit of plastic there, it encouraged me to hit more down on the ball and through. So we just got this to test out to see if it is any good. It is good. I mean, it's a good visual sort of reminder over the shot. And actually, with a few people that we've used it with already, we've had instant results. So if you're someone who struggles for angle of attack, this might be worth it. It's quite expensive actually. It's about £50 I think for a bit of plastic, but it is quite a good thing. If it is your main problem is angle of attack, then this is something that you might want to have a little look at, or come in here and have a go on ours and just see if it does what it's meant to do for you personally. But give that a go, become aware of your angle of attack and how to change it for different conditions, and it will give you a whole new set of tools for controlling the strike from different lies on the golf course. If you need any help, as always, we're always here to help you and guide you. So pop in, and if you want a quick 20 minutes on the strike wedge or some help, let us know. All right, good luck.